Ellie, I'd love for you to see the new board when they come back.
What?
I'd love you to see the new KPPCSD board when they come back. As if I was working with them, this is the group, they're in the closed session. Okay, there you go. I'll let you. Oh, you might be. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing. Wait. Yeah. You starting again?
Not yet, but I can be snacking.
Now the house actually goes hot to me, so.
Sure. Director Duggan? Vice President Goff? Director Hassai? And President Aquino, 5.
Believe you're muted on your computer. I can't hear you.
I was asked to unmute, but I'm not sure why. Do you want me to
Hand is
talk?
raised.
Oh, okay, so I'll talk. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I want to thank the board for doing this hybrid format and for including people's pictures so we can see one another. when we talk. That's really, really great and very responsive to community requests. I wanted to share some concerns about what's going on with how professional tree care is treating our park in their supposed execution of a contract to remove trees. The first thing, can you hear me okay? Okay, I'm seeing Sarah nods, so I guess that's okay. First place, they cut down a tree they weren't supposed to. They cut down a 15-foot young Monterey pine below the double row of Monterey pines near Highland. And obviously professional tree companies all the time don't kill things and drop things on houses and whatnot when they remove trees. So this was wanton destruction, and I think they should pay for it. You know, it was probably worth, I would say, at least $800. They also cut a stump they weren't supposed to cut, which people sat on, and it wasn't on their list of things to cut. And also in their original proposal, they were supposed to do stump grinding. And now that there's some sort of negotiation for us to pay extra for the stump grinding. And I think to avoid all this confusion, it would be helpful if the actual contract could go on the website so that we could all see it, because I and other people are very familiar with the park and the negotiations. And Sylvia, of course, is very familiar. Director Heisek is very familiar. So I'd like to see them actually do the contract. They haven't done most of the contract. Most of the things they were supposed to cut. I walked through the park yesterday. Today, excuse me, and they're still there. There's also a leaning tree that I've already informed Director Duggan and Director Goff about. I hope I'm pronouncing your names correctly. I guess that's the main thing. And I would also ask not to hire these people again. That was really sloppy to cut a tree they weren't supposed to cut and cut a stump that people were enjoying. And now they want extra money for what was already in their proposal. And I don't know what finally got signed, but that's why I would like to see the contract, see it on the website so we could help the new interim general manager, make sure that the contract is carried out. Thank you for listening.
Is there a reason why everybody, the board members in the interim GM are muted?
They are working on their microphone.
Can't hear you consistently.
Sorry about that. We've been having some technical difficulties. Hopefully we can get them fixed.
So I think everyone needs to stay muted unless they're talking, and then when you're not talking, you
Okay, I see another hand. I think Linda.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, thank you. I'll just make a brief statement because I'm unwell right now, so I know you have an item regarding the Elsie Nielsen Park, but it'll just be a brief statement regarding that, if I may. Would that be all right? Thank you. Well, hello, I'm Linda Lipscomb. I'm here appearing in my capacity as president of the Kensington Improvement Club Board. I want to thank the KPPCSD directors and staff for everything they did to help make the Elsie Nielsen Park a reality. Initially, KIC directors Melissa Holmes Snyder, Lisa Corona, Sarah Paul, and Sarah Goff, who is now on your board, met with the county regarding the parking lot area at Coventry and Arlington and what was then known as the Gore Lot. Sarah Goff and Lisa Corona took the laboring oars on overseeing the transformation of the Gore Lot to the lovely little Elsie Nielsen Park. KIC wants to thank its members and special donors who contributed major financial support and otherwise to this venture. And of course, we will be honoring them at the ribbon cutting dedication of the park, which will be co-sponsored by the KIC and the KPPCSD on April 14th. KIC is proud to be a continuing part of public improvement in Kensington. KIC Board of Directors Lisa Corona and Gabriel Rogan will be working with the district on the dedication celebration. We just wish to thank you all. You made it happen. You made it a reality. And I think it probably was in record time. I'm so very proud of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. But shoot, we're still having some technical difficulties. Any other comments? Oh, I see another hand. Gail?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Let me unvideo myself here. Thank you. Yeah, it was brought to my attention from reading your agenda packet that there are a number of letters concerning work on the paths. And this issue has come up before. The district does not have any authority or responsibility for the paths. At this time, there's discussion in regards to who should maintain and actually own the paths, and that hasn't been determined yet. Yet it's my understanding that your general manager has gone ahead to make an agreement to fund some work on the Ardmore path. And I'm really concerned about the district jumping into this liability before there's any determination of how this district would ever manage the paths and fund them. So I don't think that the district manager should be taking this on without going before the board and understanding the implications of doing any work on the paths at this time. I understand there's a situation where there's a down tree, but I don't think it's the district's responsibility, and I really urge you not to go forward with the funding that work at this time. Thank you.
Alex, may I respond?
Director Duggan.
Okay. The issue of the ownership of the paths, maybe mute yourselves. We're having some echoes here, guys, sorry. I mean, mute the speak. No, not that. So weird because I totally hear it. Okay. The issue of the ownership of the paths is not a problem that will just go away if we ignore it. As Eileen reported in a letter to the board, Eileen Natoli, former director, reported in a letter to the board, the KPPCSD has already paid out on one lawsuit from a person who was injured on a Kensington path in the past. I personally think that David Aranda's new precedent of a three-way agreement between the county, the adjacent homeowner, and the KPPCSD spending 1/3 of $2,700, in other words, $900 or something, for repairing the path is a good precedent. I would like to see the current KPPCSD board resolve the ownership of the Kensington paths with the county rather than keeping kicking the can down the road. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, well, I will continue in my director's comments. No, I get it. Yeah. Thank you. I'll continue in my director's comments later.
I couldn't hear that, but I saw the little signal asking me to unmute. This is Paul Dora. Were you recognizing me, Alex?
Okay, so actually,
Can you hear me?
And President, I think Paul and Vida are asking if he's recognized.
Yeah, I can hear you, Paul.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to point out that I saw this item as being on the agenda under the general manager's report. And I believe that there are a number of citizens in the community who may wish to weigh in on this rather than have the topic diverted into generalized public comments on items not on the agenda. So I would really like to see further discussion of this issue, allowing everybody who has something to say about it come up at the time in the agenda when it is currently scheduled in the general manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul and Vita. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the public comment section of our agenda. I'd like to now turn to the consent calendar, which includes approving the meeting minutes from February 9th and February 23rd, 2023, and the financial reports and ratifying the bills for February 2023.
Are these consent calendar items or not consent calendar items?
I'd ask that you separate my.
My apologies. So we're just moving to approving the meeting minutes from February 9th and February 2023. Director Duggan.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes for February 9 and February 23, 2023.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Linnell, can you call the?
Yes.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
Yes. Great. Let's next move on to the item 6, financial reports and ratification of bills for February 2023. General Manager Aranda.
Madam President, I ask the board to possibly ratify the February bills, but I'm going to ask that we not approve the December profit and loss statement until there's a little bit further research done.
Got it.
I'll make a motion that the board ratify the bills for February 2023.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Linnell, can you call them?
Yes.
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 Yes. Great. Next, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, updates from the temporary ad hoc committees. The first report is from the temporary ad hoc committee on police department and district office permanent location. And I'll be reporting on this. This committee has been meeting on a basis with the temporary public safety building committee from the KFPD. Our collaborative discussions are going well and we are making progress. We remain optimistic about the possibility of joint occupancy in the PSB between our fire and police departments. We are watching the developments around the remodeling of the PSB carefully, and we feel comfortable with the timing of this process. We had hoped to hold a special meeting by now to make a recommendation to the board about the location for the police department. However, we do need more time to finalize our information gathering and prepare this with the recommendation to the board. We hope to have a more detailed update within a month. Director Goff, would you like to add anything?
No, thank you. Wow, really bad.
Was there anything to do with the echo?
Sorry?
Is there anything to do with the echo? Great. Okay, we have a comment in the audience.
It's not on your phone. It's on the phone.
How about when people aren't speaking, you turn your phone down? That's a good point.
This mic is not working. We're actually we are only a Zoom meeting. You can sit it.
We have a.
Alex, can you explain that to the audience?
So folks, we're having some technical difficulties here in the room. A piece of equipment is broken, so we're basically all on our computers and phones.
Okay.
And my sincere apologies.
Am I able to speak now? Can you hear me?
Yes,
we hear
Larry.
you.
Okay.
My name is Larry Nagel. I'm director of the. But I'm speaking here as a.
We can't hear him.
Unmute him. I don't think people can hear you going out. Linnell, can you unmute him? He's actually using his phone to speak. to
Can you hear me now?
I think they can now.
Okay. I will try, and I'll give a copy of this to the clerk. So. Okay, I do not understand why the KPPCSD ad hoc committee on police department and district office permanent location apparently has narrowed its focus to the one alternative of trying to cram the Kensington Police Department into a corner of the newly renovated Kensington Public Safety Building. There are other and, in my opinion, better alternatives. There are at least 5 alternative sites for the police station in or very near Kensington that could accommodate the present police modular building and provide the police department the 2,800 square feet that they need, instead of the 1,200 square feet that the ad hoc committee seems to be focusing on in the PSB. To wit, one, there is a vacant lot of about 11 acres at the intersection of Sunset Drive and Franciscan Way that is owned by the mausoleum, which is now owned by a group of investors who recently purchased the mausoleum from the Sunset Cemetery. Has the committee contacted this group of investors to see if they would be willing to part with an acre or so of land to accomplish the present police modular building? 2, there's a parking lot owned by the Carmelite Monastery that sits between the monastery and the Blake House, which could house the present police modular building. Has the committee contacted the Carmelite Monastery? 3, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley, UUCB, at 1 Lawson Road, actually has two options. There is the site of the temporary fire station just off Craft Avenue, which will be vacated when the PSB is renovated and the Kensington Fire Department returns to their permanent location at 271 Arlington Avenue. The UUCB campus also has 85 feet of frontage on Highland Boulevard, which UUCB might be willing to subdivide to provide a lot on Highland Boulevard. Has the committee contacted UUCB? 4, the EBMUD reservoir site at the intersection of Grizzly Peak Boulevard and Spruce Street has unused land that EB-MUD might be willing to part with. The option was considered and abandoned by former interim general manager Rick Benson because the negotiations would take too long. But that was almost 3 years ago. Has the committee contacted EB-MUD recently? Finally, the people of Kensington have never been told why the negotiations to purchase or lease 303 Arlington were abandoned. This option almost reached fruition during the tenure of General Manager Marty Brown. Why was this option abandoned? I suppose a public records access request would provide the answer, but why has the KPPCSD not been more transparent about this? Has the committee contacted the owner of 303 Arlington Avenue recently? I urge the ad hoc committee to pursue other available alternatives to house the Kensington Police Department, as opposed to narrowing their focus to the alternative of trying to cram the police into a corner of the newly renovated public safety building. The people of Kensington deserve a police department that has adequate facilities to operate from. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I'd like to quickly respond. I can assure you that we are aware of other options and we of course are going to look at them, but the elections of November 2022, the vast majority of the community spoke very clearly that they wanted us to revisit the possibility of joint occupancy in the public safety building. And we serve the public. And so it's our duty to revisit that issue and look at it as a possibility. We're aware of all of many other options and we will do our due diligence and we will report to the community. We are not at liberty to share all of those findings right now, given there are some sensitive conversations that are happening, which you can appreciate. We'll be reporting within a month, and I just ask folks to have patience and have a little faith. Director Goff, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I think you said it very well, Alex, that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we can't share at the moment, but we're being very thorough and we will be before we present anything to the full board. And I know it must be frustrating to the community because to really understand all that is happening and what the future holds. And the fact is we need more information. We're not going to make a recommendation before we're fully prepared to do so. And while we're making progress, we're not at that point today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Goff. I see another hand. Linnell, I'm not sure who was first. David, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you.
David, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
David, you're still muted, David.
Am I okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's going back and forth. You're muting me as I unmute myself. But anyways, I'm representing. Okay, I'm representing the Kensington Property Owners Association. Appreciate the fact that you included the letter to both boards that is in the combined packet. I'd just like to make a couple comments with regard to that letter. I appreciate the sensitivity of the issue as you've described it in terms of identifying locations. However, at the same time, I think it's important as you do identify those locations that you do a fairly comprehensive analysis, both of the cost, the benefit, and the operational consequences of those different options, including the public safety building, so that we understand both what the costs are and also what the impact on services would be. That to us is a very important issue. We hope that you are expanding your view of locations. I know when you started the committee or the subcommittee, you wanted to limit it to Kensington and not any of the park. I think with regard to the park, there is that empty space south of the library, which is a non-recreational area. I think that would be worth looking at going forward. And also the Universal Unitarian Church property, which is essentially adjacent to the Kensington border. But again, it's important that you continue to keep the public informed of what's going on. And more important, make sure that the public understands all the consequences from both a cost and a service perspective. And thank you again for your service.
Thank you, David. I think Mabry, you're next. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, first I wanted to say I could not hear a single word of that report because there was a huge echo. So I presume some of the comments by Larry Nagel, where he implied that you were only looking at the public safety building was part of the report. I would really appreciate hearing that entire report again without all the echoes that made it impossible to hear. I would also like to see that report written on the webpage for people who aren't listening or who've given up already. That should be in a written form on the webpage. I don't know how soon you get the minutes up, but just as a separate report. I would also like to comment that well, again, just because the electorate says, I want to have this, there's lots of reasons why it's not feasible. You need to do what is right and proper, and squeezing the police department into the public safety building is not right, proper, or nor even legal. But I'm wondering why you categorically are excluding considering using the parking lot area that the district owns. There was under the earlier board, one of the presentations of a design that would fit into that area would only take away 6 parking places. And to me, the loss of 6 parking places, we're all supposed to be walking. Well, I agree that doesn't happen. But to me, it's worth having the police department in a very convenient location like that and give up 6 parking places. There's street parking. There's plenty of street parking. So I think that's still a viable solution, and I don't think it should be excluded. I would really like to hear that report again because it was just totally impossible to hear. And you still have a few extra people that we can see. I suppose other people like to see them, but I don't need to see them. But I'm glad to see Sylvia one of the board members got included in what we can see. Thank you.
Madam President, may I make a recommendation that if that speaker there wants a copy, I'll be happy to drop it off to the house.
I can't hear what that comment was.
No, I think the request is to have the letter posted on the website.
No, the ad hoc report, it wasn't the letter.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see another hand, John Gaccioni. And thank you, maybe, for your patience.
Yeah, good evening. The sound quality has been terrible. Most of the comments have been garbled, but I know people are working on it. My comment is about the something that keeps getting repeated, that a majority of the community wants to put both the police and fire into the public safety building. I don't understand how you get to that point. You cite you have 800 and some odd number of people signing a letter or something, but that seems to be unverified. And do you know that all of those people who signed are Kensington residents? And then you keep citing the community. Who speaks for the community? What's your description of the community? I have a problem with that because it's just a justification for what you want to do. And it was decided, it seems long ago, that someone or some group wanted to have both agencies put into the public safety building. It doesn't make sense. It hasn't made sense. And none of the reasons of why you would like to do that makes sense. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
You're
I
welcome.
see excuse me. No, let's. Katya, I think I see your hand up.
Yes, hi again, everyone. This is probably the most difficult and challenging problem Kensington has ever faced in trying to figure out where to house the police department, and could have very serious consequences in terms both of police morale and being able to hire good people and retain them. And also, if there's a catastrophic earthquake, you know, would our emergency service personnel be able to reach us? Not to mention ongoing police services in Kensington. I tend to agree with several other speakers that we don't really know exactly why the three newish at this point board members were elected. I like to think that people wanted creative change, wanted you young people with fresh ideas to meet the moment. And so I hope you will, as some of your campaign promised, would consider housing both police and fire in the public safety building. And however, I tend to very much agree with Larry Nagel that it's not a good idea to cram the police into the fire building unless we really have no other choice. And in talking with people around Kensington, what I hear is we can't afford anything else, that there's a real fear we cannot afford to do anything else but put the police into the fire building. And so I second David Spath's idea that we need to see the numbers crunched. Can we really not afford it? What would be the long-term consequences? Should we do some belt tightening in the administrative department in order to be able to afford something? One thing Larry Nagel didn't mention is the possibility of buying a property along the Arlington and converting that as well. So there's a lot of, suffering here about trying to figure this out and trying to afford it and what is really the best course of action. And I hope we'll be open to finding the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Katya. Any other public comments? Okay. I think we can move on. Next, we'll have an update on the Park Replanting Strategy Committee from the Park Replanting Strategy Committee. I'm not sure, Director Duggan. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Go ahead and, perfect, okay. So since our last board meeting, Director Goff and I have done the following. On February 27 here, we had a lively and interactive community meeting for input about replanting the park, which was attended by a total of about 15 people, including one child, who gave us lots of useful and creative ideas about what could be done in our park. If you'd like a list of those ideas, feel free to email me. I can send it to you. We met with a representative of Blake Gardens and the UC Berkeley Botany Department. He gave us his recommendations about what and how to replant, and we discussed briefly their collaboration with Seguria Te Indigenous Peoples Group. We met with current park maintenance contractor Fernando Herrera to discuss his input on replanting, an extension of the irrigation system that we will need for getting the new trees going, and other ideas and problems in the park. I also met with KPPCSD admin staffer Rosa Ruiz to get her input about replanting and concerns about the park. And lastly, Sarah and I continue to get emails and calls from citizens with ideas. If you have any suggestions, especially we need some recommendations of landscape architects or soils experts, kindly send them to us. My email address, cduggan@kppcsd.org. Duggan is spelled D-U-G-G-A-N. And Sarah is Gough, S-G-O-U-G-H, @kppcsd.org. Thank you.
Alex, may I?
Yes. Director Goff.
Can everyone hear me? Hear me?
Yes. I
Okay.
can hear you.
Thank you, Director Duggan, for that update. I would just add that we are also about to submit a proposal to Segurite via the help and facilitation of Good Guess Kensington to engage our Indigenous residents and partners on their thoughts, to get their thoughts on the land and how we might care for it in the future. So we're excited about that, and we appreciate Good Guess Kensington's efforts on our behalf. It's a different process, and we are grateful for their expertise and guidance on this, and look forward to hearing from them soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Goff, Director Duggan. Director Hassai.
Thank you. I'd like to ask if some of this information can be put on the website, if there could be a section that would be part of the replanting, because as you're meeting now and having conversations, you've written out your comments and reports. I feel like that would be worth posting and having, and you had a list of already ideas. If you already have that list in the interest of more in community engagement and transparency, if that could be, if there's a section on the website related to the park that could be part of the replanting, or if it could be delivered as part of the packet in the future, it would be, I think, helpful to spread the word to more citizens.
Yeah. So may I respond? It's just
Director
that, thank you. So we are taking notes and we're gathering a lot of information, and we've met a lot of people. At this point, because it's more of an open, casual brainstorm, conversational style type meeting and research mode, I to me, it makes more sense to gather that information for Director Duggan and I to distill it into a workable format and a recommendation, and then share all the information at once with the recommendation as we present in that format, because my concern is that people feel very free to offer suggestions. And when you put them out there specifically, at this point, it's just an open, it's an open invitation for input, and we're not judging, critiquing, or ruling anything out at this point. And I worry that if we post it as our working notes, that there might be some concern or judgment or back and forth about specific planting ideas. And that's not the thrust of this committee. This committee is about hearing from the community and relevant stakeholders, distilling, organizing, and then presenting a recommendation. And I think that some might see suggestions and assume that is what the recommendation will be. And at this point, we're not there, and in all likelihood, there won't be that level of specificity in the recommendation anyway, because the professionals would guide that input. This is really to hear from all the stakeholders, but.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Director Duggan?
Well, funny you should say that, because I told Sarah I wanted to bring a printout and print 25 copies for the meeting, and I wanted it posted on the website, because if anything, I am Mrs. Transparency.
I'll take your copy.
I personally actually kind of disagree with Sarah. I feel that there are a million great ideas out there. I've had my mind, blown by a couple of ideas that people came up with that I would not have thought of. And now I've been spreading those and asking people for input. So I don't know. I just see it more that maybe it would be good to put the ideas out there, and it becomes, it's brainstorming, no bad ideas when you're brainstorming.
It's fine too. I respect where Sarah's coming from, and as you offered an invitation to anybody who wants that list, I'm one of those people. You can hand it to me, and anybody else can email you, and that's fine.
Thank you, Director Duggan.
What's your opinion, Alex?
I'm leaning more towards gathering everything and then making a formal presentation. I think it could get disorganized really quickly if you try to having managed websites. I wouldn't recommend that. Okay,
Well,
thank you.
Then let's keep it at, email me if you want that list, and feel free to email Sarah or me. We are meeting with citizens one by one. We're taking phone calls.
And I think the idea is not trying, that we're trying to withhold information here. It's just, we have limited resources and time, and also don't want to see any ideas ruled out or disparaged when they're put out there publicly. And there needs to be a freedom and a confidence to just share without judgment at this stage. But if people feel strongly, we get a lot of feedback from the community that they really want that information. I have no problem with that. But again, it all takes time as well. So, I'm open, flexible. So.
Do you have an estimate or a target date when you want to present to the board or to a community meeting?
Yeah, the committee document I think it was a July deadline.
I would just think that as we're doing our budget before July 1 is the beginning of the fiscal year, you may want to think about that so that it could be budgeted in the next fiscal year, possibly.
It could be sooner. That was the outer limit. So.
Thank you, Director Duggan. I see some comments from the community. Mark Wegner, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, this is actually Mary Korn, Mark's computer here. I want to ask, while you're considering landscaping issues, if you could not also include, how can you landscape the large grass oval that's used as a dog park? It's really discouraging to go there when people are standing with their dogs running loose, and they're standing below the county signs saying that dogs must be on leash. So I don't know if there's some way in looking at the park as a whole to make it less desirable as a dog run. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I think I see Mabry. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, me again. Again, it sounded like to me Cass had a written report, and I would also like to see that on the posted on the district webpage. In my memory, it doesn't retain things as well. She spoke at a reasonable rate, but still there was some details that she gave, and it's a report that's been publicly stated, so that's not requesting anything. And of course, this community, people are going to give their opinions, whether you ask for it or not, or say, well, you know, we don't want to get inundated. But again, I would request that all these reports, since I presume they are being written ahead of time, so you can speak succinctly and coherently, that they too be posted on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabry. Director Goff.
Yes, I would just like to respond. Mabry, just so I'm clear, it's not a report. It's just notes from the committee meetings, working notes. So it's very casual format. It's a brainstorm. No formal report was done. These are just working committee notes.
Okay. Then
but feel free. We're willing to share them if you want them.
Okay, I'm going to revise my wording. I said report updates is what the minutes say. I would like to see these updates. And again, I presume the update was written. I would like to see that written updates included on the district webpage so we can refer to them. Then we know what ideas you've already talked about, so we don't have to re-suggest all those things that you've already, heard from, looked at, unless you want to say me too. I like that idea. But I think it's the update. We deserve to have those in a written form so that we can review them and know what you guys said, since the minutes are not action minutes. And it sounds like it sounds like you have already written out your update that you were going to give at this meeting.
Thank you, Mabry. Thank you. I think we understand, and we'll take it under consideration and talk with our general manager about the best way to share this information. Director Duggan, do you have a comment?
I just wanted to say that's fine. I can ask Linnell to maybe post this with all of the notes for today.
Great. Next, we have an announcement of the Nielsen Park dedication. Director Goff.
Yes, thank you, President Fike. I essentially am reading a notice that was drafted by the Kensington Improvement Club, and thank you, Linda, for giving a little preview to this announcement about the Elsie Nielsen Park, which is, to those unfamiliar, the little corner lot at Coventry and Arlington Avenue now has a sign, Nielsen Park, and that was a wonderful project to work on. In my time on the KIC board with Lisa Corona and others, and of course the district. And I'm just going to read their announcement, which appears on our website, I believe, already, and also will appear in the Outlook, I believe, as well soon for April, will come out before. And this little small dedication is going to be very simple, and it reads, time to celebrate the new park. Please join the Kensington Improvement Club and the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District for the ribbon cutting celebration at the new Kensington Park, Elsie Nielsen Park, at the corner of Arlington Avenue and Coventry Road. What? A ribbon cutting. When? April 14th at 4 p.m. This will be an opportunity to take pride in the accomplishments that our community achieves, working together in the spirit of volunteerism and cooperation. The little park is now a lovely path with plants and seating areas for resting and visiting, as well as a welcoming feature for those driving through Kensington along Arlington Avenue. This wonderful improvement to the Kensington community would not have been possible without community donations, volunteers, and a partnership between KIC and KPPCSD. We hope you can join us. It'll be a very small, casual affair. not too long, but we do want to recognize this great new community asset and the people who contributed. So please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Goff. Looking forward to the ceremony. Next, we have an update on the consolidation joint meeting with the KFPD. Director Goff again.
Yes, thank you. And I will do the same. Also, this notice and has also appeared on our website, will be in the Outlook. And since our last meeting, we have scheduled the date for this special joint meeting with the KFPD, the Kensington Fire Protection District, where we will hear a presentation from Luann Texera from LAFCO on consolidation and have some board discussion and public comment. So I will read that announcement. It will also appear in the Outlook and on our website. So please take note. The KPPCSD and KFPD boards have voted to call a joint special board meeting on April 24th at 7 p.m. to hear a presentation on consolidation of the two districts from Luann Texera, the Chief Executive of Contra Costa County Local Agency Formation Committee. The meeting will be held in hybrid format. Hopefully we can work out more of those kinks, allowing participation via Zoom or in person at the community center. Members of the public are encouraged to attend. If residents have questions they would like to see answered at the presentation, it is strongly encouraged that they be sent to directors, me, Goff, or Levine on the fire board prior to the meeting so that the answers can be included in the presentation, possibly by Luann. Please check the KPPCSD website for meeting details or contact myself or at sgolf@kppcsd.org or KFPD Director Daniel Levine at dlevine@kensingtonfire.org with any questions. Thank you and hope to see everyone there. Yes, I'm sorry.
Director Hassai.
If community members are, if community members are sending you and Director Levine questions,
What's gonna happen at that point, those questions? Is there a professional facilitator? Are you guys gonna decide what questions to ask? Are you gonna turn it over to staff?
So in the meeting or prior to the meeting?
Well, prior to the meeting.
Yeah, so if they come prior to the meeting, we will share them with Luann. If it, well, there obviously have to be some kind of filter so that it's relevant to Kensington and the topic of consolidation and within the appropriate boundaries. She's planning to present to us on the option before us and what it would mean and what the process would involve. So anything related to that. And then certainly in the public comment period, the public may comment and or ask a question, and it's in the board's discussion whether or not that question will be, heard or asked. So
if it's a joint meeting, who is the chair, I guess?
So we're still working out some of the details of the meeting with my counterparts on the fire board, and those details still have to be ironed out.
Great. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I think we can turn to the next item on the agenda, report from our police chief, Chief Gankas. Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, wonderful. I'm gonna get my video working here. If you just give me 1 second. Can you see me?
Yes.
Does that work? Okay. I know we've had some technical difficulties. I don't want to make them any worse. Good evening, members of the board, members of the Kensington community. I have your police chief's report for the month of February. The Kensington Police Department handled 752 incidents during the month. 656 were officer-initiated events, including 26 traffic enforcement stops, resulting in the issuance of 22 citations. The California severe winter storms limited traffic enforcement, resulting in a decrease in citations from the previous month. We responded to 96 dispatch calls for service and took 10 criminal reports. During the storms, officers proactively patrolled the community looking for signs of obstructed storm drains and flooding. Officers took 4 catalytic converter theft reports, all occurring between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. Officers are pursuing leads and working directly with our partner agencies to prevent further theft, and that includes the El Cerrito Police Department in Albany. Additionally, response times for officers was reduced in February compared to January by 2.5 minutes. For traffic safety, collisions were down 100%, which says a lot considering the weather we had last month. And they're down 100% from 5 the previous month. Officer patrol at several road closures initiated by utility companies, including PG&E, Contra Costa County Public Works, East Bay Mud, and Steege Sanitation District. The average vehicle speed on Arlington Avenue was consistent with the 25-mile-per-hour posted speed, showing a 2-week average speed of 25.46 miles per hour. So congratulations, Kensington drivers, you're doing great. From the administration side, our newest officer, David Payne, officially started on February 9th and is in the field training program assigned to the patrol division. He's doing fantastic. We anticipate him graduating from the field training program and moving into a solo officer position in June. I made a former offer of employment, was extended to a police officer from the city of Fremont after he successfully completed all the phases of the background process. I'm happy to report he accepted our offer, and his first official day will be Monday morning, March 13th. We look forward to swearing them in a future board meeting. Last month, staffing levels remained at 8 officers for most of the month. On the training side of things, Sergeant Knapp attended and completed session 3 of the post-approved Supervisory Leadership Institute. His anticipated graduation will be July 2023. Sergeant Brian Landy continues offering a weekly briefing training using a service called the Briefing Room. Officers review weekly training videos on a wide range of topics from officer safety, de-escalation procedures, and constitutional issues in policing. Sergeant Nathan Jason Haynes attended an SB2 decertification training from the California Commission on Post, utilizing the Mark 43 platform to enter and review data. The California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training completed its annual audit of our police officer files on March 1st, and I can discuss that next month's report, but I give you a hint that it went very well, thanks to the detailed file keeping of Sergeant Naff and Lieutenant Brad Harms. And I attended an online presentation by Flock Safety to explore obtaining security cameras for the district. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief Gankas, and congratulations on your new hires. I know how tough it is in this market. I did want to ask a quick question, given the storm that's already hitting us and going to be, I think, going over the weekend. If you have any tips or suggestions, where can we find them? Will it be on your Facebook page or?
Absolutely. We posted some stuff as recently as last evening that we got from the Office of Emergency Services from the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department. We also posted that on Nixle, and I'm not a big fan of posting things on Nixle unless they're very, very important. And I think these storms have proven themselves to be that important. The one thing I would recommend that we found to be very successful is this proactive of clearing drains. We went out and bought rakes, and every officer carries a rake in the car with them. I know it sounds silly, but just the simple clearing of a few drains prevents major flooding in several intersections. So I encourage the community, if you see those drains that are clogged, give us a call. We'll come out and do it. It'll take East Bay Mud about 6 months to come out and do it, but we can knock it out in a few minutes.
Thank you, Chief Gankas. That's probably true. Director Hasai.
As my neighborhood's drain cleaner, I appreciate that. 2 questions for you. One is about the daily average speeds. I assume that this is taken from the multiple radar signs all around Kensington. Is that correct?
It is not. We have about 2 radar signs that are actually functional. The older radar signs, they're very difficult to work with. I have one of the smartest people out there trying to decipher these things, and that's Brian Landy. And he has come back to me with a report that says, Chief, I don't even know if they have software for these signs anymore. So it's very difficult to get any data out of at least 3 of those signs. We think the most important sign is that one on Arlington because it is the main thoroughfare of the district. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it takes about 3 hours to download the data from one sign. It's an arduous process. We are looking into improved signs to make this easier and more streamlined. And we're also looking into software to make this read a little bit easier. And I've talked with President Fike about that data. So I hope that answers your question. We're doing the best we can with the technology that's available to us.
So basically, this is from the Arlington.
Yes, it is.
That's great. That's what I wanted to know because it shows that people are generally following the speed limit. And I know that people who live on the Arlington are very concerned about their ability to get in and out. But the fact of the matter is this is showing, at least at this time period, a pretty decent amount of people following the speed limit. So second question or potentially request is that when you talked about the flock safety cameras, when you say security cameras for the district, what does that mean? Is that security cameras for district property or is that like community cameras?
No, they would be cameras that we would put in the district. We've looked at several types, very similar. In fact, same company that the city of El Cerrito is going with and many other Bay Area cities have. They capture vehicle information in the city and is used for primarily in Kensington's case would be look back data. For example, those 4 catalytic converter thefts I mentioned, we really don't have anything to go on in Kensington in terms of capturing technology, whether it be license plates or vehicle descriptions. The biggest lead we get seems to be from neighbor doorbell cameras. Sometimes they'll provide us cameras of cars that are in the neighborhood or have left the neighborhood. And Kensington doesn't have anything in the form of any type of community-wide camera systems.
I'd like to suggest that this is an item that is agendized before you go too far down this road. In particular, if you're going to want to make a budget request, as you know, this is a pretty hot button issue in many communities. And I think it's something that needs attention as a discussion by the community and by the board prior to being submitted as a budget request, for example.
Sure. I completely agree.
Director Hussey, yeah, that's definitely something that will be on a future agenda.
Thank you.
Next, Director Duggan.
I wanted to congratulate you on hiring, and so now I see that you're up to 9 total officers plus 1 support staff. Is that the full complement that we are supposed to have?
It is full staffing. I will divulge that we lost an officer today. So we'll officially be at 8 on Monday.
Okay. And there was a retirement coming up pretty soon.
July.
I'm sorry?
July.
Okay.
Yeah. We're in competition. To be very honest with you. There are headhunters that absolutely recruit from whatever agency they can get their hands on. So
Yeah.
we're very fortunate, and it is a big win for the district with the people that we've hired recently.
Yeah. Well, good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Kankas.
Thank you.
Next, we'll turn to the general manager's report. David, I'm so sorry about the technology for tonight.
Basically, I've presented a few bullet points, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that either the board has or the public.
Director Hussey.
So I would like to have a discussion on the item that has been brought up on the Ardmore paths. I don't know technically how we can do that. This is obviously an agendized item as far as the general manager's report, but I would ask council, what kind of discussion can we have about that item related to the paths?
You can ask questions, and you can give direction to the agenda or for the discussion. I know that the matter is below his expenditure authority, but I do think it's worth a conversation about the policy involved.
Okay. Well, I guess, could I ask you then as general counsel to comment on the proposed plan?
Well, I don't have enough information to provide a lot of commentary. Generally speaking, if a public agency takes action to maintain a facility, it runs the risk of being associated with the ownership of that facility, which
We can't hear what she's saying.
Hold on. I think that people are not able to hear you on Zoom. I think that's because you need to not use this mic. You're using only your computer. You're using only your computer mic. Maybe. Maybe David could pass his phone to Ann and Ann could use your phone. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, either way, if that's. It's important enough to wait for the
Bear, yeah,
answer.
bear with us. We're trying to get Ann on Zoom. I think if you talk into his phone, yeah.
We can't hear her at all. I think she's muted.
One second, folks, sorry.
How about now?
Yes,
All
now
right,
we can
still
hear.
echoing, but better. If a public agency undertakes maintenance activities with respect to a facility, it runs the risk. 1, 2.
And it's a delayed from her. So if you turn yours off and just listen to her, then we won't have, just turn it sound down on your phone. Turn the sound down on your phone because she's in the.
Can you hear me now? Right now? I tend to speak pretty loud.
Yes.
How's that? All right. I will project from my diaphragm. So.
Okay, try again.
A public agency that undertakes maintenance of a facility is demonstrating its ongoing responsibility. That doesn't mean it's immediately becomes the ownership and responsibility forever of the public agency, but it gives rise to an argument, which of course can lead to liability if someone is then injured because of lack of maintenance. So it's something that most public agencies would prefer to avoid. Now, there are ways to structure this so that we could contribute to a fix without necessarily playing that role. That my preferred method would be to actually have the homeowner or the county enter into the contract and have the problem fixed, and then we would reimburse them. It would be something similar to the settlement of a disputed claim. However, if we send our own people to do the work, if anybody then says that there's a problem with the work, then they would come after the district as being responsible for that. So in any event, I would urge the district not contract to have the work done, but simply offer to reimburse whomever does contract to have the work done. And I would like to review that agreement before it gets signed.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, I mean, I will say that I have hesitation. This past issue has been in the district for many years. I'm not actually sure that it's accurate that we paid out a claim. I thought that we had escaped that. Did we pay out a claim?
I think everyone settled.
Okay, I thought somehow we skated away from that one, but I was not on the board at the time. I can't be sure. But it's a big issue, and I am generally supportive of looking for ways to help and take on the path, but we're kind of going in the wrong direction. We're going with taking a responsibility, and we haven't yet assumed ownership, nor have we funded, but we don't even know what it's going to take, and we haven't funded it. However, there is a public safety issue. I recognize that. I personally don't believe we have any reason to pay. I don't think it's an extraordinary amount of money for either the county or the citizen to bear. I would prefer that we do not do this, but I am not, I mean, it's obviously within the general manager's discretion, and the board can give direction. I may be the minority on the board who feels that way. If the board and the general manager proceed, I do believe that we should take Ann's advice and structure it in a way to protect the district as much as possible, which is not enter into a direct agreement, nor to have any of our personnel doing any of the work. Is that what you said? Okay. So those are my feelings on the issue.
Director Goff.
Yes, I have no issue with what Anne is recommending in terms of how to structure the agreement. I would say that the district has been exposed to liability regardless of our ownership, our responsibility, or whether we even touch the paths. So making this relatively small repair in the interest of public safety, in collaboration with also other entities that have also bear no responsibility for the paths, but who are doing it because it's the right thing to do to protect the public, such as the county, such as the homeowner. Sharing and spreading this cost and risk is the right thing to do for the community, because otherwise, because they're not owned by anyone and no one claims responsibility, that hazard could stay out there indefinitely. And this is going to be an issue that's a recurring issue for us as a district. And at that point, it really does need to be a reconsideration of policy. And I think that that's not what this specific act is. I think this is a one-off at the moment to address a public hazard. But that the public should be aware that there is a county working group comprised of several Kensington residents looking at this issue. Because our paths are important community assets. They are a recreation asset. They are a public safety asset, and no one claims responsibility, and they will continue to degrade and actually go from an asset to a liability. So Director Duggan and I are closely following this, and I expect at some point that we would be bringing back this topic for a broader policy consideration at some point in the future.
Could Ann comment on the issue about ownership in the county? I don't know if it's called Title 21 or this section under which they may have responsibility. I'll try to find the citation.
I understand folks' concerns and about liability, but we're going to have liability no matter what. And this is an immediate public safety issue. I mean, we are entering a massive storm over the weekend. We're going to get more storms. Someone could really get hurt. And when I weigh the pros and cons, I think we have to fix this and as soon as possible. And really what this issue is bringing up for me is the underlying question of ownership. And we have to finally nail this down. It's my personal opinion that the community really needs to take over and really support and maintain these paths. But we need more analysis, and we need to talk to the stakeholders, and we need to do it tomorrow. So I appreciate the support and all the work that the Pathfinders group has done. And you, Director Goff and Director Duggan, I appreciate you both taking this on. Director Duggan.
Yeah. Just want to repeat, the issue of the ownership of the paths is not a problem that will just go away if we ignore it. The community has kicked this can down the road. The board has kicked this can down the road long enough. I would like to see the current KPPCSD board resolve the ownership of the Kensington paths with the county. And Director Goff and I had a meeting with Supervisor John Joya and his Kensington representative, Robert Rogers, on February 16 to start this conversation. We already have our park and our parklet and medians, which are covered by our insurance policy in case people are injured there. If we do accept any part of ownership of the paths, which we're gonna, investigate and make the right choice, they can then be covered by our insurance as well, which will cover costs of any lawsuit. It's better that we take this issue on and make the best possible plan. The buck stops here.
On my question about this county.
Director Hassan.
Yeah, so this is zone 21 in the county landscaping and lighting district, which is how they could justify, how the county can justify spending money. So I wanted to ask more about that. Okay. It's a small amount of money. I understand that too.
Director Goff.
I just will comment on the Z21. That's the lighting and landscape district. I'm familiar with that map. The Kensington Improvement Club actually advocates for projects where that money should be used within the medians. The paths are not part of the Z21 funding. They are apart from that. And that funding, by the way, is quite meager related to the medians, the parking lot on the Arlington and Calusa Circle, and that's essentially it. So
Thank
the
you.
paths are left out completely. Nobody claims them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Goff. Are there any other comments on the general manager's report? Yep, I see some hands in Zoom. Rod, you can unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, can you guys hear
Yes.
me? Great.
Yes.
Well, you know, what struck me from this conversation is it's an awkward situation. And, you know, you guys, I totally agree with what you said, that this is going to continue to be a problem. Several of you called it a public safety issue, but I have to say, as a Kensington resident, I'm embarrassed to see that sidewalk closed sign and to think my community, there's people in my community advocating to do nothing about that. I think we can do better than that in Kensington. And we talk about kicking the can down the road. It's 110 years since those paths became part of Kensington. And, you know, they're deteriorating. You guys said that. Of course, this is going to happen again and again. So this is, it's just great that the general manager tried to craft a solution. And I'm really glad to hear the board is very open to thinking about public acquisition of the Kensington paths. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Lisa, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see, even a picture, what the heck. Hi, good evening. I just want to say a few things about this as well. I mean, it's fundamentally the position of the police department to safeguard the health and safety of this community. And Sarah clarified Zone 21, it does not include the paths. It only includes very specific limited areas, and that is county money that only goes for those county purposes. As I understand it, the police put up the warning signs and caution tape around the tree where the sidewalk is lifted and where the sidewalk. That is the responsible action to inform the public of this hazard. On the issue of liability, I don't think anyone would suggest that the district take down the warning signs and expose the public to greater hazard because of possible liability in putting up the signs in the first place. I mean, it's already been touched. You know, I'd also point out that doing nothing can also lead to a lawsuit against the district if someone gets hurt. If they hurt themselves on this unabated known hazard, the district could have liability, as we experienced when there was one accident in 100 years that we know of on the path. There is no clear entity of ownership. So basically everyone, including citizens, get sued by that because there's no clear ownership. So clearly the ownership issue has to be dealt with. I completely agree there's more work to be done on the cost and funding prior to discussion on ownership of the paths, and that's underway at the county. However, these local emergencies at very low cost cannot wait for that process to be completed. The appropriate and responsible thing to do is to alleviate the hazard. And I applaud the general manager for engaging other parties, sharing the cost, and taking the steps to make the entire community safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. David Spath, you can unmute yourself.
Well, thank you. I just want to reiterate what Lisa has said, that and commend the general manager for his actions to try to bring the other parties in the county, which also doesn't have any responsibility for the paths, and the homeowner who doesn't own the paths either, at least bringing them together to try to come up with a solution. This is a situation where there is an obvious hazard. You've put up signs and tape to prevent people from using the path. So that in itself suggests that you could be held liable for doing that. And no one is suggesting that you take those signs down and the tape down. And in some sense, how is it any different than going out and cleaning the gutters? The gutters aren't the responsibility of Kensington. It's not the responsibility of the police department, but you're going out there and cleaning them. You know, what if you damage them, but while you're doing that? Are you liable for that? Do you want to accept that liability? I mean, it strikes me as being a little silly. I do appreciate council's direction with regard to the contract work. I think that's very good advice, but I don't see any reason why not going forward and repairing the path and avoiding an accident that's probably waiting to happen down the road. And thank you again for your service and be willing to listen to this.
Thank you, David. Paul and Vita, you can unmute yourself. Paul, are you there? Let's.
We are. It just showed up. Thank you very much, Alex. So hats off to the general manager for crafting a sensible, immediate response to a problem that can't be ignored, as apparently some people would prefer that we do. Also, thank you to the general counsel for an astute way to structure this to minimize the risk. But there's a risk to the district no matter which way you go. You can be sued for leaving it the way it is. You can be sued if you do something. So what's the right thing to do? And I think the answer is fix it. And I think this is a very good example of competent staff work. And I hope it's a harbinger of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I see John Gaccioni, your hand is up. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, good evening. To David's remark about that the police clean the gutters and whatnot, I think it's pretty clear that the county is responsible for the roads and the gutters.
Okay,
And
I'm
the
gonna take.
stage cleans
Okay.
all of the drains.
You want to
So it's,
bring this?
it's not a one-to-one. We all enjoy the paths, but it's a difficult proposition about who owns them. And since it's been 100 years since nobody wants to claim ownership, you can see the depth of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any other comments? I don't see any. Director Duggan?
I would just like to thank David Aranda. I think he's doing a great job. We're lucky we found him. You go, David.
Thank you, Director Duggan.
So can we clarify that we have agreed that, or is it true that we agree that we should pursue the course that David has recommended, however, under the parameters of the general counsel's review and her suggestion on how to structure the deal?
Yes.
I agree.
Probably downtown that that's going on. No, I'll go ahead and just let you say.
Well, the
Probably
decision.
not going to take place.
The deal is that we don't directly engage a contractor and that we reimburse somebody for that money.
I'm sorry.
Well, why don't we have this conversation in public? Because I don't think that what Ann suggested was very onerous. So
We can't hear anything.
We have a contract with to do work for us. And he was gonna go out next week and knock this thing out and be done.
well, for now,
The county doesn't wanna.
they don't want to do it. I wonder
they don't wanna
why.
Go through it.
Yeah.
we go back, circle, and go back to the county, this is gonna cost more money in legal fees, and it won't get done.
What about, if Fernando is an independent contractor, he has his own business, correct?
That's correct.
The homeowner could hire Fernando, correct?
Yeah.
And the homeowner could,
Homeowner wants to.
well, then, there we have it. Nobody wants to do it. Why?
Director Duck.
I'd like to suggest that you ask the homeowner if he's willing to officially be the one who hires Fernando, and the monies can be pooled and given to Fernando, cash or whatever.
Okay, sure.
And if that will not work, I personally, as I said, I think the precedent of three, clearly us not only taking ownership because county homeowner and KPPCSD are jointly paying for this. I don't see it as a very dangerous precedent. I see it as actually pretty positive precedent, and I would like to see you go ahead quickly to get this fixed.
I completely agree, Director Duggan. So, General David, if we can get the homeowner to hire Fernando, great. But if not, move forward, and the district should take care of this immediately. So let's try to get it done. Hopefully the homeowner is amenable to this structure that our general counsel has proposed. But if not, then I still support you moving forward.
And I would agree.
Okay, next, I think we don't need to, on board correspondence, it's all on the website. Is that correct, Linnell? Okay. So I think we can adjourn. Oh, excuse me. Skip that. Yes, very important. Director comments, I've already given mine. Oh, yeah. Delk, yes, go ahead. Delk, you can speak.
Can I speak? Yes, thank you. This is the first time I've tried to participating at a meeting in this.
Delk, unfortunately, we can't hear you. I think your internet connection might be unstable. You're frozen.
I think one of the things she was saying was it's been difficult to participate in this meeting, but I'm not
Right.
sure.
Well, all right, I have been unable to raise my hand and speak at any time in this meeting. That is fortunate for you, but maybe there's some way you can inform people how they can go to this new format, because there is no little raise your hand icon on my screen. Of course, you could say, well, that's the problem with my computer. But I think something else is going on. It was a little bit too rainy for me to go out tonight. And as you can see, I'm not really dressed for public appearance. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to everyone about these technical difficulties. We really have to address this for next month's meeting. We'll do better. I think, Len, I think you have your hand up. You can unmute yourself.
So there are 3 dots that appear to the side on my screen under more, and that's where the raise your hand option appears. So perhaps that'll help in the future. Okay. Did you hear me?
Thank you, Lynn. And Delk, we'll talk offline about how to fix this.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, let's move on. We've got to get through this meeting to director comments. I've already made mine. Are there any other directors who'd like to make a comment?
Okay,
Director Duggan.
I'll go and I'll try to keep it brief. I would like to see an agenda item on the next meeting proposing that in the light of the end of the COVID-19 state of emergency, the wearing of masks in board meetings be made optional. It's harder to understand speakers who are wearing masks due to muffling and the way masks hide expressions and body language. However, of course, anyone who wishes to wear a mask can, and we have the hybrid option, which isn't working very well. But for those who don't wish to attend meetings, I'd also like to say I am delighted that Linnell and the team have now made meetings much more visible and participatory on Zoom by having meetings instead of webinars. I'm delighted that many of you are keeping your faces, you know, showing when you feel like it, or at least showing your faces when speaking. I also want to mention that correspondence sent into meetings will now be posted on the agenda for that meeting. And we also have a miscellaneous documents place on the website where things such as A. Stevens Delks, Bayview, refuse reports. I have actually been requesting from General Manager Aranda that those be posted there. I want to say thank you to the Arlington Church for allowing the KCC to use their main hall for classes that are rained out. This is an example of the community working together, and we need more of that in Kensington. And I want to say that is part of the reason why I supported keeping the police station out of their shared parking lot, because they're an important part of our community and need the lot for their services and events. I will limit myself to that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Director Duggan. Director Hussai.
Yes, I'm glad that Director Duggan brought up the policies around COVID. I want to share that if folks don't know, on April 3rd, the requirements that have been more stringent on healthcare facilities and other congregant settings are also being relaxed. So I do believe it's time for the staff to perhaps propose some newer policies that the board could consider and potentially adopt in line with what's happening. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I think we can now adjourn. It is 8:38. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us, given all the issues, and we hope to address them. We will address them by the next meeting. Thank you. This meeting's adjourned. Excuse me. No, we're having a special meeting, but we do need to take a quick bio break, so bear with us.
baloney.
Okay, we are all back. I'd like to call this special meeting to order. The time is 8:43. Linnell, can you do the roll call?
Here.
Here,
Here. Are there any public comments on the special meeting agenda? Seeing none. David, can you walk us through?
Okay. Am I good? Okay. I have been, working diligently for, going on almost a month. And, my concern in my investigation has been that the, audit, for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2022, has not been completed yet. We are 2.5 months, two months plus behind in our financial statements. I'm very concerned about where we stand in our actual expenses versus our budget. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I feel very strongly that it's my responsibility that you asked me to look over the district's operations. And with that, I'm asking the board to make a change in a consulting firm. There was an agreement a while back with a company called Mays. They, in my opinion, have not performed as I would have hoped. And so I'm asking the board to allow me to contact Mays and inform them we're going in a different direction and contract with this company that you've been presented, Eddie Bailey, in regard to attempting to get us caught up on our financials, get us where I'm comfortable, where we are financially, that we can move forward in the budgeting process for next year and complete the audit. I do want to bring to the board's attention that when I originally wrote this, which was late yesterday after being on Zoom with our auditor, this recommendation came from an auditor, and it also came from a CFO that I know that does a lot of work with special districts. And they are very confident that this company will get us to where we need to be. However, the company, and talking to one of the primaries, she cannot get some information that she needs on the QuickBooks that we have. And so, as you may have noted, she has written that the cost to get us where we need to be will not exceed, this is in the agreement, will not exceed 50,000. So that really doesn't pencil to 10,000 a month. It pencils a little bit more to that to get us into the end of June. But I am confident, and so is she, that once they get over that hump, and I'm hopeful with the help of our part-time person that we'll be able to help them get over that hump. We can move forward in getting this done. So I'm asking the board to approve letting me enter into a relationship with Eddie Bailey and inform Mays that we're going to move on.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Director Goff.
David, can you clarify how much money we're currently being charged by Mays?
We've averaged in going back $10,000 a month. And then there's another consultant that we're averaging about another $1,500 a month. And that's not including the in-house staffing, which quite frankly is not acceptable.
And so this new company, the Eddie Bailey, would replace both of the outside consultants conceivably?
Yeah.
Director Duggan.
So this is a time limited contract? Will this be a time limited contract?
The way the contract, the way this agreement's written, if they started and the end of March, for example, we weren't happy, we call them and we say, no, don't thank you, we don't want your services. So it's basically a day-to-day business.
Director Hussai.
Sorry, I'm gonna look for my Zoom screen. Normally, when we give the general manager direction to enter into a contract, it is subject to form and approval by the general counsel. So if we do that, that's fine, but usually we put form and approval by the general counsel as well. And I would ask that we do that.
I think that's reasonable. I would agree.
Yep, no objection. I would ask that we get this settled pretty quickly, though. I'm also concerned about the state of our finances, and we need some help. Fresh set of eyes to look at things. So thank you for finding this firm, and yeah, there is public. Yeah, I see. Okay, we're going to public comment on this agenda item. I see one hand, Mabry.
Okay. Is the new, proposed almost new financial advisors, are they going to prepare the audit that Mays has not, or whatever the exact term for whatever Mays hasn't produced for all the statements? And I don't know if we've already paid Mays for some of that. Are we going to be able to recoup the money that's been paid and they're not performing the services? I guess that's my major, well, okay, and am I repeating myself? So the new firm will probably also be doing the last year's audit. And that means they kind of have to start from scratch, it sounds like. Okay, that's it.
No, that is incorrect. David, can you?
Yeah, first of all, the auditors that we've engaged with are called Negro and Negro, and they will do the audit. The problem has been they have been unable to obtain the information that they've been requesting for months now from Mays and also from our finance director. And so as we move forward, there will be a turning over of information, which is in QuickBooks. And I am hopeful that based on a Zoom conversation we had, a lot of the audit information that the auditor will complete has been forwarded to that auditor as we conclude the week tomorrow. So there will not be a duplication of work, and there will not have to be any type of doing any type of work over again. It's kind of like picking up from where you left off and continuing to move on.
Okay.
Okay, I see a hand from Paul and Vita. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. From the interim GM's comments, I didn't quite catch whether or not the change from Mays to the new firm would also, excuse me, include a change of the in-house finance director. And if that's the case, I think that would be something the community would want to know. Thank you.
No, thank you, Paul, for your comments, but we can't comment on that issue right at this time. But really, this is about replacing the two existing consultants, Mays and an individual consultant. This is really just a way to clean up our finances and consolidate some of the consulting services. I do not see any other hands. So what I'm hearing is we're considering a motion to direct our general manager to enter into an agreement with Idle Bailey. Sorry for mispronouncing their name. Subject to the general counsel's approval as to form.
I second the motion.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Linnell, can you call the vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Great. So that was the only item on that special meeting agenda. I believe now we can adjourn. Finally. It is 8:54 p.m. Again, I appreciate the public's patience with us as we dealt with these sound issues, and we will be addressing them as soon as possible.
Have a
good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.